Good evening, Professor Black. I hope you're doing well with everything going on. So, for this very delayed ethics vlog, I decided to cover chapter 19 in our book, which covered the case of a young university student who also served as her class president. She was murdered nearby and left for dead near their campus, and it also covered the fellow student who served as a communications major and also a reporter. And the case examined what ethical situations can come up when you're faced with covering something or someone that you know personally. So the chapter started off talking about a 22-year old student, Eve Carlson, who was found murdered near the campus of University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. A fellow broadcasting student named Adam Rue knew Miss Carson through his travels in covering the student government on campus, and he thought he could, in his own words, bring an interesting context to the story as a fellow student and as also one of her friends. Mr. Rue struggled at first with how his objectivity should be displayed as went about the town to cover these events, as well as a 24-hour news cycle pressure that was suddenly felt upon him because he only had minutes basically, since he was the only one covering this case, to check facts and everything like that. So he also struggled with being a reporter and a source of information for other reporters who had come to cover the case. But in the end, Mr. Rue stood his ground, covering the story and dealt in the facts of the case. But he did say he wished that he hadn't served as a source, as that line can be kind of hard to tread. Now, I think in situations like this, you have to be cognizant of who you're covering as well as your own limitations. I don't think it's necessarily a conflict of interest to cover someone you know, unless there is already some kind of contract between the two of you from some previously established deal. But reporters also do need to keep in mind of their own gut reactions to how they may cover someone they know, particularly if they've been murdered or just even harmed in any way. Because yeah, you can think you can cover a case without bias, but we're also humans at our core, and when we see someone harmed, particularly someone that we know, we may be hard pressed to kind of keep our emotions in check in the moment when it actually comes down to it. So I guess in the end, I would say you basically want to do a gut check if you're a reporter before you decide to cover a story about someone you know, because things can become conflicted pretty quickly if you can't remain impersonal and detached from the story you're covering. Have a good evening. Look forward to seeing you again after all this craziness dies down.